Savvy Central Radio's official sponsor for our third annual Aviation Month is Winty Aviation T-Shirt Art. Winty is an aviation-themed t-shirt business designing and printing aviation-related graphics for pilots, aviation businesses, and aviation enthusiasts worldwide. Winty can print 1 or 100 garments upon request within a reasonably low turnaround time, including a one-stop shop solution for all your graphic art needs, from logos, business cards, book covers, and banners. Contact winty.com today in order to find out how your design could become a reality. Get ready and start your engines for our third annual Aviation Month on Savvy Central Radio, where 8 aviation businesses share their knowledge and wisdom. Our first guest is Tyson Rininger, aviation photographer. He shares his tips and business advice for getting into the industry, standing out from the crowd, and copyright laws to protect your work. In 2001, Tyson became a full-time photographer, working for George Hall and Check 6, as well as Zenith Press Air Superiority line of calendars, and eventually 2 books, Red Flag Air Combat for the 21st Century and F-15 Eagle at War. He went on to work for numerous publications including Air Space Smithsonian, Aviation Week and Space Technology, Combat Aircraft, PrivateAir, Pilot Magazine, and many others. Over the next couple years, he has captured an image that would become the icon of the 100th anniversary of naval aviation, and become the first and only civilian photographer to provide the U.S. Navy Blue Angels with their annual lithograph. To find out more about Tyson and his work, visit his website at tvrphotography.com. For your chance to win an official Savvy Central Radio 3rd Annual Aviation Month t-shirt, like our page at facebook.com/Savvy Central Radio. Hi, Tyson. Welcome to Savvy Central Radio. How are you?
I'm good, Christina. How are you today?
I'm doing fine, and I'm excited. You are joining us for our Aviation Month, our 3rd Annual Aviation Month. And we have not had on our show at all ever a photographer, a professional photographer. So I'm really excited for you to share your journey, what brought you to the world of aviation and to the world of photography, and in particular, aviation photography. So I'll let you take the floor.
Oh, likewise. Thank you.
You're welcome.
Well, basically, I've been doing photography for about 25 years. I started when I was about 15. I used to live down in Southern California at near Point Mugu Naval Air Station. And it was so fascinating just to watch all the different aircraft. Point Mugu, as some people I'm sure know, others probably not, the aircraft that are based there are very unique. We had, LC-130s, which are C-130 Hercules that have skis. They would go down to Antarctica. We had VX-4, which is a test and evaluation squadron. They flew the infamous Black Bunny Tomcat amongst A3 Sky Warriors, and we had some very unique P-3 Orions from VP-30, and just all these really cool planes that would fly over the house, and I would just get fascinated. So I would try to go to air shows every single year, and when I turned 15, Don Lewis, the air show coordinator at the time, wanted me to do some photography for him, and they put me in a helicopter and took the doors off. Away I went. Ever since then, I was hooked. It's pretty cool.
And have you gotten your pilot license as well, or?
That is on my list of things to do next year. So it's been something that I've been really striving for.
Yeah.
I have about 250 hours of actual stick time, but I have yet to solo just due to proficiency. By the time we get done, and I usually have to get back to work, and I have to start all over again. So so it's my goal to get an airplane this year and get my pilot's license and just get it out of the way so I can fly more.
Wow. So you're going to actually buy an aircraft to practice and do your training in?
I'd like to. I'll probably do a little bit of a training just to understand aircraft a little bit more as far as the mechanics go.
Yeah.
But no, I'd love to get a Luscombe or a Cessna 120 or 140 or something like that. My dream aircraft was actually a Cub, but when it came down to it, my wife is not too keen on flying yet. She's getting a lot better, but I'd much rather her sit next to me rather than behind me. I think she'd be more comfortable, and we could both learn a lot better that way.
Yeah, for sure. Is she
I'm guessing.
Is she gonna fly with you? Become a pilot as well, or?
No, she's flying's not really her thing. She was kind of brought into this when we got married, and so she actually She did a flower bombing run this past weekend with some friends.
Oh, neat. I saw that online, by the way.
Yeah, so she's kind of diving into it hesitantly, but she's getting a little more used to it. So it's an adventure for both of us.
Well, congratulations. And I totally get where you're coming from because my partner is a pilot and he's a commercial pilot. He's multi-engine, commercial, you name it. But I went for a couple hours of flight training and wanted to go, but then my business got in the way. A number of financial issues, and I just never got to complete it. But flying with him, and often on the weekends, I've flown over like 350 hours with him.
Wow.
But, I mean, he's the pilot in command, but I've been there. I've seen how things go. I help him with some of the flight and the pre-flight. So everyone jokes at the flight school that you practically could just jump in the plane and get your pilot license.
Well, from what I've learned, having taken flight school so many times and dropped out, is, airplanes aren't as dangerous as most people think. They do want to fly themselves. Our flight school and learning to fly is not necessarily learning how to fly the plane. It's learning what to do when the unexpected happens. And that's the part that I'm trying to wrap my brain around and get knowledgeable on.
Yeah, and I think it's an ongoing thing. You don't just get your piece of paper and bam, you're set to go. Because as you continue to grow, and even more so, I think once you have your license and you get out there and you challenge yourself bit by bit, things will just come up and you'll be like, oh, now what? And you'll just have to, meet challenges bit by bit.
Exactly.
Yeah.
One of the things that I've learned from doing aviation photography is, I'll ask pilots to, put the aircraft in a certain spot, or we'll do something, and I'll hear over the radio, no, sorry, I can't do that, or, and I want to understand why. And I don't want to make the mistake of putting an inexperienced pilot in a position that's dangerous. I would rather have that knowledge and know what our limitations are. Wow, that is an interesting way to look at it, because I never would have even thought that, hey, put in this attitude, oh no, that's not a good idea for me to do that right now. Right. Not understanding the machine that person's working with, and on top of it, what is their skill set? The particular person you might be asking is not qualified or comfortable with a particular maneuver. Yeah, absolutely. Perhaps. Something good to learn. So yeah, I know, and it can only help you be even better photographer down the line. I hope so. Yeah. So as you've gone about in 25 years of experience in being a photographer and growing your own business, TVR Photography, what has been some of the greatest lessons you've learned in running your own business? Well, especially in the aviation industry, I've learned that it's a very small world. You really can't go straight out and do whatever you want. You have to be very diplomatic. You have to be very friendly. Don't piss anyone off. Word gets around, and pretty soon you find yourself not able to get jobs. People won't fly with you. It is a small world with aviation. And it works the other way as well. The better you do, the more you put into your photos, and the more benefit you give the pilot or the aircraft owner or manufacturer, whoever your client may be, the better the word is it spreads, and people are more likely to work with you. It's very similar to weddings in a small town. Pretty much get business based off of word of mouth, and if you upset anyone or do something wrong, you can pretty much forget about booking anything in that town. The difference with aviation is just it encompasses a much larger area, but the people are just as communicative. It is a community. It is a family. So you want to do everyone right. Do the best you can. Wow. Yeah. And along your journey through building your business, has there been any specific hurdles that you've come across? I'm sure you don't go pissing pilots off, but anything you come up with the running of your business in general that was tough and you kind of learned to work through it? Education, I think, is fundamental. I think that's the biggest hurdle, educating people, especially in the business of photography. So there's your typical business, and each person knows how to run it, but when you deal with photos, it's a very intangible subject. So when you try to come up with a cost, or you try to come up with a game plan or something else to make it successful for all parties, I've learned to slow down, try and explain and justify why my business works the way it does. And folks seem to understand. They're a little bit more receptive. The other challenge has been trying to think different, be unique. There's a lot of phenomenal aviation photographers out there. that do a wonderful job. They have their own connections. They've got their own families, if you will, in the aviation community. My goal is to try and do something that they haven't, or something that hasn't been done. Or I'm also a huge history buff when it comes to photography. I like to see what was done back in the 1900s and so forth. And oftentimes I'll take those lessons learned from history and I'll apply them with new technology. And those are pretty big hurdles. I do also try to look at other aspects of photography, automotive photography, architectural photography, different things that most aviation photographers wouldn't look at, and I try to learn off of those. I've tried tilting the camera. That became pretty successful. I used a lighting technique from the 50s that I've been using for the last 10 years, and very few people have figured it out yet. It's history. It's been done. What I'm doing is nothing new, but it's applying it to a new genre using newer technology in the same fashion. But those are all things that, I never intended on doing when I became a business owner, but I found out that I had to stay ahead, and hopefully to motivate other photographers as well, to help them want to learn and be a little different. Those are my biggest challenges, I think.
Wow. When I was listening to you, I was like, I know there's going to be some people out there, and I was thinking of asking you this. I'm sure there's some people out there who are like, I love taking pictures. I could totally see myself maybe being a photographer, but where would I even get started? And can you teach them? Do you teach photographers?
I've been asked. I'm not a very good teacher. I'm trying. It's difficult for me. It's difficult for a lot of photographers. You're going to find those key photographers that are educators, the Kelby educational systems, the Joe McNally's, they have it in their system to where they are born educators. As a photographer, I'm very independent. I tend to do things on my own and try to figure out what works and what doesn't. And I don't take very good mental notes. During the process, I see what I'm able to create, and I can finesse it a little bit. But when it comes to educating folks, it's very difficult. If they wanted to get into aviation photography, there are more and more workshops popping up lately. The one thing that I would suggest, and with photography, it's very much like being a pilot or an aircraft owner. If you want to make $1 million, you got to get into the industry with $2 million. You're going to lose a lot. That's the unfortunate side with photography. But if you have a skill and if you have a business background, that will help push you along further than most photographers who do this as a passion. Those of us with a passion are very artistically minded. We're not very business minded. And I'm one of those. I'm still trying to learn how to run a business successfully. I fail many, many times, and that's normal. You should not be afraid of that. But if you have a business background, if you understand the fundamentals of business, you will go a lot farther in the business of photography. As for getting into aviation photography, it is very difficult. Pilots, aircraft owners are spending a lot of money to entertain you in the air or on the ground. So you need to have a plan. You need to be, justified with what you're doing. Make sure that if you are working with someone, you can give back as much as they've given you. And I know that sounds very spiritual, but the way would be is, they gave you a lot of financial sacrifices in the forms of fuel and aircraft maintenance and time and things like that. You need to give back to them in the form of either boosting their ego, if that's what they want. After all, we're talking about pilots. Many of them are friends, but let's face it. But also give back to them in the sense of helping them spread the message of aviation. It could be working with EAA's Young Eagles program or AOPA's programs or any of the programs that help aviation progress, whether it be individually or as a group. It's just all about trying to find that symbiosis. That's the easiest way to get into photography is have a plan that helps everyone, not just yourself.
Wow. And you know what came up for me when you said that is I just read a book today talking about the law of increase, spiritual law that really basically says what you were just talking about, which is within anything in life, whatever you desire, you must first give value or increase or enhancement or to them, and that they must feel that you're,
True.
Yeah, you know what I mean? So when you said that, I was like, wow. So if you're hanging out with a pilot, if you can't pay for the gas or the airplane, there might be other ways you can increase or add value or enhancement to their life. Maybe bring some cooked meals or, there could be many different ways. Yeah. Bring some meals to the airport.
Absolutely. Let's face it. I mean, most of us photographers, we can't pay for the fuel.
Yeah.
It's an expense that the aircraft owner, it's a burden on them. And unfortunately, that's not going to change. There's rare instances where I have been able to assist with the price of fuel and everything on my own. But yeah, definitely, it's whatever you can do to help out to the equivalent of what they've given you.
Yeah, and it can show up in many different forms. It doesn't have to be on that day's flight. Awesome.
True. Very true.
I heard you mention early on that there's certain things you're working through in running a business. Has there ever been a problem in your business with someone stealing? Like, how do you protect your photos online? Because I notice a lot of photographers put their photos online. How do you protect your goods?
It's very difficult, and it's one of those things where you just have to pick your battles. There are many types of uses that someone else can take advantage of your photography. There's, social networking, which is kind of the biggest right now. A lot of people who sign up for Facebook or Reddit or Twitter or any of those, they don't understand copyright law. They see an image on the computer and they figure, well, it's there. It must be free to use. And it's not. But at the same time, it's one of those things where if it's going to take you, a month to track down someone who's got a fan page on Facebook just to remove an image, it's not worth your time. The image is probably not usable, beyond social networking because it's so low resolution. They can't duplicate it any other way. It's just one of those, you really have to figure out what's most important to you. Now, if there's a commercial entity or someone, a business that absconds with your image and wants to use it or distributes a high resolution file, then you do have some legal recourse. But the only way that you're really going to get ahead if you do have copyright infringement is if you've already submitted your images to the Library of Congress and they're documented and archived as copyrighted. Otherwise, very few lawyers are going to want to assist. There's really no financial justification other than eventually them taking the image down and apologizing and moving on. So, with social networking, that's kind of the biggie. Yeah, it's just one of those things where depending on how it's used, if someone uses it as their cover page or a business or something, then definitely go after them. But if it's just a fan and they're saying, hey, look at this photo that my friend took or something, I typically just let it go. It's just not worth the time. Yeah, and I can imagine it could come back as an opportunity in that if it spreads it viral, it could, everyone's watching it online, it could bring you some business. It could. And there's another interesting facet with that. An image, so I'm going to kind of go off on a little tangent here, and I apologize, but an image, according to U.S. court system, has a value of about $5,000 over the course of its lifetime, which they've come to the agreement that its lifetime is 5 years. Well, if someone does take your image and it ends up going viral and it wasn't something that you planned on, what will happen is people will see that image and it'll become viewed by so many people to the point where now magazines, publications, advertisers, companies, whoever might potentially buy that image will no longer want to because it's no longer vibrant and fresh and different. It's been seen. So that kind of goes back to picking your battles is depending on how large the source is that, illegally or accidentally uses your image. Viral is a good thing if that image has already been paid for over time. It's not a good thing if you are intending on marketing that image and it's very early in its life. So that's something else to understand about business, if that helps anyone out there, I hope. Yeah, because I love to watch Russell Peters. He's a comedian too, and apparently there was a guy who was uploading his videos that were not from his people. It was just someone uploading his videos, and I didn't notice, but
they got ripped down. I went back to show my friends, and they were taken down, and a very strong message was put up, like, do not put our videos up. These are not yours. And the guy wrote back in YouTube saying, well, what's your problem? I'm helping you promote it. And I guess it's very similar to photographs that, you know, it's their message, it's their videos, and by you broadcasting and them not getting a scoop in it, you could lose the value in it with over putting it out there on the internet. So many people listening to it and watching it, it won't become valuable when it comes to town to do those same skits because it's being over listened to online.
Absolutely. Yep, that works the same exact way with photography.
Interesting. Wow. And I have to tell you right now, I was looking at your photographs last week, and I really, really was intrigued by a lot of the World War II inspired ones. And did you use that technique you mentioned about the different lighting from the old times on those photographs?
I have. So there's two types of photography that I've kind of, gone off on in trying new things. And one is the black and white. I'm kind of an old school photographer in that I was brought up from the film days, and I used to work at a photo store where it was frequented by John Sexton, who was Ansel Adams' assistant, the Weston family, who are just huge on black and white fine art, very well known. And I kind of got to know the process of dodging and burning and just the old school ways of making prints. And I wanted to keep that alive with some of my older photography. I say older, some of my photography featuring older aircraft. So if it's a 1950s or older type aircraft, I'll take what I've learned, and apply it digitally. I came out with a book called Reminisce, it's close to 200 pages of just nothing but black and white. There are no color photos in it whatsoever. And with, I think, only about maybe 3 exceptions from the U.S. Navy Legacy and the U.S. Air Force Heritage Program, all of the aircraft featured are old, nostalgic, older, either World War II or general aviation aircraft from the 1950s and earlier. There's that method, which I'm having a lot of fun with, but then there's the other method of, lighting them up at night, trying to give them a dramatic feel on a runway or a grass strip or something. I don't know which ones you saw.
I saw about 100 of them, so I think I saw both versions.
Oh, okay.
Yeah, phenomenal work. I mean, I've seen a lot of aviation photography, but it was very unique and very different.
Oh, thank you, Christina. And that goes back to, one of the most difficult things to learn about a business is how to be different. Yeah. I know black and white's nothing new, but trying to use modern-day digital technology to recreate a higher quality black and white image that is, I guess, reminiscent of, olden days. I used to do it where you would do the torn corners and the bent photos and the sepia tone and everything, but it seemed kind of silly to duplicate the infancy of photography when you have such great technology to where you can make it look as though it was, taken in the 1950s, but blown up and with greater detail and with greater emotional impact, I guess, with today's technology.
Yeah, absolutely. And before we head on out here, I want you to let everyone know where they can contact you, find out more about you, and reach out to you if they want to work with you.
Sure. Well, you're more than welcome. I've got a website, TVR Tango Victor Romeo Photography.com. I do have a Facebook page under the same heading. Those are probably the best ways, and I'd love to hear from people. And I always appreciate feedback on the images. And if you've got anything that, let's say you're not a photographer and you've got stuff that you would like to see, I'm all about trying new stuff and doing things. And yeah, it's fun. It definitely is a passion.
Oh, and I love the way you used aviation phonetics when you said the name there.
Oh, thanks.
Well, Tyson, it's been awesome having you out here today. I know you gave some good tips to anyone out there running any business, let alone a photographer or an amateur photographer who wants to take it to the next step. And I really thank you for coming on out to Aviation Month. Thank you again.
Thank you, Christina. Much appreciated.
For your chance to win an official Savvy Central Radio 3rd Annual Aviation Month t-shirt, like our page at facebook.com/Savvy Central Radio. For those interested in joining our Savvy family or being a paid sponsor or interviewing with us, contact us at savvycentralradio@gmail.com or 718-713-2289. And remember, we want to host the programming you're interested in. If you have a guest you'd like to hear on Savvy or a topic you'd like us to cover, please let us know.